Good day everyone, we are Introspective, bringing you the third video of the top-down shooter tutorial series. Today, we will tackle the environment creation and light rendering for your game scene. As you can see, we already have a terrain set up, ready for the actual game. You can go to Hierarchy, create 3D object, and then look for terrain. Once you have your terrain, you can go to the settings and just pick the width and length and height of which your terrain will be set as. In this case, we are using 100 by 100, but if I just adjust this a little bit more, you can see how long it can go to. But for this one, for our top-down shooter game, this will suffice. Next one we have is the create neighbor terrains. This is simple. As we zoom out, there are 4 green boxes adjacent to the current terrain box that will appear. And if you click on that, the land will expand to these areas. Of course, you are free to do anything that you want, but for our case, we will be only using the current terrain that we have. Next one we have is the paint terrain. It features 6 things that you can do with the terrain itself. First one being the set height, the default height on which your terrain will be placed on. And then the smooth height, at which if you see some ragged edges, some rough parts, or raised lower parts that are just awkward to look at, you can smooth it out and then make it look a bit pleasing to the eye. In which we can do the raise or lower terrain. Left click to just raise the terrain, and just shift and drag everything if you want to lower it. You can choose your brush size, your brush presets, and strength of which you can lower or raise your terrain. At a perfect example and demonstration of the smooth terrain, you can do this. Go to smooth terrain and just smooth everything out, and you can see it is creating a more smooth transition towards the rest of the terrain. The next one we have is the paint texture. Here you can go to your edit terrain layers, add layer, and pick out whatever layer you may want to add to your own terrain. And then of course, for example, you can use the layer ground or the stone layer ground. Red layer, stone layer. It's already here. So if you click on the areas, just change the bit more opacity, you can see it's changing the areas. If you want a more seamless transition to the other textures, you can just lower the opacity and just adjust the texture to your own liking. You can switch out to other textures if you want, and just do this. As you can see, it's beginning to look alike more in the textures that we're used to. The next one we have is the paint trees. As you can see, there are a lot of trees that are already set across the terrain with a bunch of oak, fir, and the occasional stump prefabs. You can go to edit trees, add tree, and then choose a prefab that you want to put. In this case, we are using a birch tree. Add, and you can customize the size of which this tree will appear and the tree density of how many trees will go across the brush size, and then the brush size itself. We just go by this, we will see the birch trees appearing if you click on the terrain. As we are using a forest settings for our zombie apocalypse game in which this environment is based on, this will suffice for the entire image. In fact, I will just remove some of it created so that there will be a more even release across the areas. There. Next we have is the paint details. This time, acts very similar to the paint trees, but in this case we are using grasses, stones, mushrooms, and other smaller prefabs for the environment detail. If we go by this, we use stone and just add. You can see it all spread out. And then, same goes for the other things, bushes. And there we go. Of course, you can go to edit details, add detail mesh, and then do the same thing but for small details like mushrooms, and just put it back. Since we are practically done with the terrain, something to remind of you is to use nav mesh surface when creating your terrain. At some point you should add this into your creation because this will be used for the navigation of your creatures that has AI scripting or movement pattern across the world. This will appear as bake and go to AI navigation, surfaces, show nav mesh in order to pinpoint the entire mesh of which the terrain is based on. This means your creatures that have AI navigation or movement scripting will follow this general area that is highlighted and not go across the boundaries. The next one we have is the lighting. As you can see here, it appears to have a blue hue when you go into the actual game. That's because if we go to the window and go to rendering and then lighting, you will see the lighting options for the scene, environment, real-time light maps, and bake light maps. We will go to environment, and this is usually set to skybox at default. If we go here, this is the default skybox and it will look like this. But if you can customize it for the lighting, this will go and add a bit more dusk or creepy vibe to your game. But if we go back to gradient as I used before, it just adds a vibe of being a moonlit path across the area. This is the primary vibe we are aiming for in a game with zombie apocalypse scenario. There is also the color. It uses just straight up colors from the color wheel in order to simulate the lighting. If you are satisfied with this form of lighting, you can go back. It won't appear that this is in the scene, but it will appear in the game, so you must adjust your lighting in the actual game itself. Let's just go back to gradient, and there we go. And that is about it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you later. Bye bye!